Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Charlotte, and in today's video I'll be sharing with you a little reading vlog that is a collab with my friend Gwen. She reached out to me a while ago about collabing, and we recently decided on the video that we are going to do, which is the same kind of video I did when I collabed with Arlen. It's basically where both of us give each other 5 choices of our 5-star reads, and you pick 3 and then you read them. So I'm reading 3 books that I chose from Gwen's list of 5, and then she's reading 3 books that she chose from my list of 5. And again, these are our 5-star reads. These are some of our favorite books. And I'm just super excited to take you guys along with me as I read them, share my review. And yeah, that's basically just the plan for today. So let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, first of all, we have to talk about the books that I chose from Gwen's list. I am so excited to begin to talk about these. I had heard of 2 of them and I had not heard from one of them, but I did a tiny bit of research, just enough to know if it'd be something I'd be interested in reading, but she is a clean reader, so it was easy for me to know I could read any of them. So my first choice from Gwen's list was Ruby Red by Kirsten Dier, I think. This is actually originally a German book translated into English, and from what this looks like, it looks like a basic fantasy book, but the plot sounded really interesting and like it has to do with time travel, but I got the fantasy vibe from the title and the cover. Again, I don't know much about these, that's why you're watching, to see what I think once I read them. Next we have Rebel of the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. This one I had heard of before, but honestly know nothing about it, except that it's a fantasy book, and I think it has to take place somewhere in the desert, with the title being Sands, but I'm super excited to read this one, and it's such a cute cover. And then lastly, we have a book kind of outside my comfort zone. This is I Hope This Doesn't Find You by Anne Liang. I actually have heard a lot about Anne Liang books, but I've never actually wanted to read one myself, just because they didn't really look like something that would interest me. But I'm so excited to kind of get out of my comfort zone and try one of these books, because this was the last choice from Gwen's list. And yeah, so that's basically this one. I know nothing about it. I think it's a romance, and what I've heard, I think it has to do with maybe like academics, like rival to lovers or something. I don't know much, but I'm super excited to give this one a try. Anne Liang's books are clean YA, and they have been popular for a while, but I just never really thought to try them. So I'm super excited that this is one of Gwen's 5-star reads and I can try it. I could not get the copy because my library actually doesn't have it, and I did just go ahead and get these books from my library because I didn't know if I would like them or not. So I am listening to this one over on Libby, so anytime I talk about this book, I'll kind of just put the cover up here where it probably is right now. So that's all I have to say for this little intro. Let's just go ahead and get reading Gwen's 5 stars. Okay guys, so the very first book that I started for this video was Ruby Red. I actually just made it to page 200. I've been reading this incredibly fast. I'm just gonna kind of share my thoughts so far. I cannot remember the last time I have been loving reading a book. I know that sounds bad, but a lot of the books that I've read recently have been like sponsored content, like the book sent to me, or I'm reading them for some sort of thing or for some reason, and I always feel like rushed with them, and I kind of never really connect to the story. But this book is obviously for a collab, but I don't feel rushed, and I am loving it. Oh my goodness, I cannot even begin to tell you how much I'm loving this book. And I think also that I'm just a sucker for time travel. Like if there is time travel in any sort of story, I love it. My favorite TV show, it's called Timeless. It is free to watch on Tubi. I'm so excited they just added it, even though I already own it. But basically that's a time travel show, and this deals with a lot of time travel, which honestly pulls in magical realism, time travel, fantasy, historical fiction. It has so many different elements, and that's just why I love time travel so much. So I'm going to continue to read this, hopefully finish it up soon and give you guys my opinion. But my message to Gwen so far is amazing choice, and also it's such a coincidence because the 2 main characters in this book are named Gwen or Gwyneth and Charlotte. Except Charlotte is like a stuck-up bad character, which is a little disappointing, but I'm not going to subtract points for that because that is very biased and not fair. But I think Gwen chose this because the character Gwen is really good. She's actually a really good main character so far. I'm rambling. I'll update you guys when I finish this, but I love it so far. Hi guys, so I'm officially finished Ruby Red and I'm here to share my little review. First of all, I just want to say that Gwen, so far you have great book taste because I loved this book. It was so addicting and I could not put it down. I did end up rating it a 4.5. I wanted to rate it a 5-star, but I felt like it was not the most original story, so I couldn't rate it a 5-star. But all the details and the execution in the story made it very original. The plot is basically a girl finds out she can time travel and has to learn how to like use that ability, which obviously is not the most unique, but the way the story was written was super unique and I absolutely enjoyed it so much. Honestly, it's amazing. You should definitely go and read it. I can't remember the last time I read a YA book and actually enjoyed it as much as this one, and it was fairly clean, which I also obviously loved. I felt like this book had a big emphasis like on the cover, on the back, that it was all about romance, but there wasn't really any romance in the story. Towards the end, it kind of develops a little bit more and it had a little bit of like an enemies to lovers side plot going, which I did enjoy. I felt like it added a good aspect to the story, but it did not take over the story like a lot of modern YA books do. It did have like 1 or 2 typos, but it might have just been the transition or the change of languages. But again, I loved this so much. Our main character wasn't annoying like a lot of YA books. And honestly, overall, I just love this, and I'm so glad that Gwen chose this book for me because I had never heard of it before and probably would have never read it if it wasn't for her. So far, I'm so happy with how this video is going, and I cannot wait to read the other 2 books. So basically, I could not get the copy of I Hope This Doesn't Find You, which I mentioned before, so I am listening to that on audio while I start Rebel of the Sands. Again, I absolutely know nothing about this book. This one I actually have heard of before, I think from Maya Venice, I want to say, but I honestly know nothing about it. I read the first chapter and already, wow, it is very intense and it has a lot of things in it that I will have to put in the content warnings for my review. They don't bother me because they add to the story and they're supposed to be awful things, but just reading the first chapter, I was like, okay, kind of imagine that Star Wars movie, I don't know my Star Wars, but the one that takes place on the really sandy planet, and then also imagine like Raya and the Last Dragon, where she's like on her creature running through like the sand and like the dunes, the desert. That's just kind of the vibe that I've gotten so far from this, only reading 1 chapter. I'm not going to talk about the content in it so far. That'll all be in my review in case you don't want to hear what's in it and it makes you uncomfortable, but I'm going to continue reading this. So far I think it's very interesting, but it does lean towards the more new YA, so it does already have that cringy undertone and that main character that is obviously a girl and is better than everyone else, which is so common in books, but I'm trying not to judge too much yet because I haven't read enough to judge that much. So I'm going to continue to read and I'll update you guys when I have more to say on Rebel of the Sands. But so far, this is definitely my favorite cover. So here I'm just going to be talking about I Hope This Doesn't Find You. So sadly for me, this was actually a DNF, and I feel so bad saying this because this was one of the books that Gwen chose for me, but it was just really outside of my comfort zone and I cannot connect with the story. I'm not going to really go into detail about that because I don't want to hurt Gwen's feelings, and I can definitely see how she likes the book, and I do feel like if I wasn't as busy with all the other books I'm trying to read, all the books on my TBR, I might have given it more of a chance. But just know that it didn't have to deal with it not being clean or anything. It just was not a book that I was connecting with and I wasn't enjoying it. So that does mean I'm just going to try to focus on finishing Rebel of the Sands because I am really enjoying that one, which we'll of course talk about soon. But yeah, that is just kind of my final thoughts and decisions for I Hope This Doesn't Find You. I am sad to DNF it, but I do feel like it's the best decision so that I can focus on the other books and just read what I'm actually enjoying. So yeah, that's all I have to say for that one. Let's just go ahead and talk about the rest of the books and whatever else I'm going to do in this video. Okay guys, so I'm here to give you my final review of Rebel of the Sands. I think I read this pretty fast, not as fast as I read Ruby Red, obviously because I was like adoring that one, but this one I still felt like I read pretty fast. For me, this was a strong start, slow finish, and reading through a few other people's reviews, they did agree with that. I felt like at the beginning, I was very hooked, I wanted to keep reading, and I actually got on like a reading trance reading this because I was reading it, and then an hour later, I kind of like woke up, I was like, wait, where was I all that time? I was that enthralled with the story, and I did not have any thoughts during that. I was just reading and reading and reading, which was so much fun. But then I did have to download the audiobook for like the last third of the book because I just felt a little bit uninterested and I couldn't focus on it. And they introduced so many new characters, and I just had absolutely no idea what was going on and who was a boy and who was a girl. Like, I could not figure anything out in this book towards the end. I felt like it suddenly turned into your average dystopian book, which was strange because it was very much a fantasy at the beginning. I feel like there was nothing super unique about this book, but it had a lot of train scenes, and I loved trains. I love anything that has to do with like traveling on a train. There was a train fight scene, and there was a scene on the train where they were just like living on the train and traveling. Oh, so much fun. I love that. There were so many parts of this book that I loved, and I adored our main two characters. Our FMC and our MMC were great. I actually really liked their relationship. It was a very, very slow burn romance. It was not the whole point of the story. It was very, very much off to the side, which I liked because I felt like they could have made it the main focus and made it really cheesy, but it was actually really fun, and it added to the story since it was on the side really well. I feel like the romance was the best part of this book, but also I did feel like they nailed the Middle Eastern vibe of this, which also is a little bit why I rated this book 17 plus, just because there was a lot of heavy subjects in here. You can go check out my review on Fable where you can list out all the trigger warnings, and I pretty much had to hit every one of those for this book. And it was talking about how wrong those things were, but then they were mentioning a bunch of things on every page. So this is very, very much a book that you need to look into. You need to go read my review on or somebody else's if you want to read it, just because I feel like it was very intense. It was extremely violent and had some interesting descriptions of the violence that was a little bit gory for me. But if I am able to just like push those things out of my mind, I enjoyed the story itself, and I am really glad that I read it. So yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts for this. I rated it a 4-star, and I am really glad that I had the opportunity to read this. And for me, it actually was a pretty refreshing YA read because it wasn't super tropey and cheesy. It was just very intense, and I cannot believe this was rated YA. Like, that's insane. But I am really glad that I read this. I felt mature enough for it, and those things didn't bother me enough to stop reading it. So yeah, that is this book. Clean romance, not really clean in any other area if you're okay with that sort of thing. So yeah, that is my final review for this one, and I guess that means that I've actually finished this video, which is insane. Both of these books are from the library, and now I want to go and buy both of these so I can have them on my shelf and continue to grow this trilogy, maybe this one. So yeah, I am so glad that I did this video, this fun collab with Gwen. It was so much fun. These were two books that I would have never thought of to read before, and I'm so glad that you had me read them. Even though I did not rate them a 5-star because I'm extremely picky about that, I enjoyed them so much. Thank you so much for recommending them to me, and I love getting to know you more from this video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing another collab from me. Comment down below if you would like to collab, or if you want to see more collabs from my channel. Make sure to subscribe for more clean book content, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!